Hey everybody, Graham McBain. We've got Rachel from Crypto Finally. Rachel, thanks for joining us at Remote CryptoCon. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me. It's going well. Remote indeed. I haven't really left my apartment in a while.
Oh yeah, where are you based?
I'm about an hour and a half out of New York City right now. So I was in New York. I had been living in New York permanently for about 6 months, but this COVID stuff and everything, it was just a lot, and I couldn't justify it. So I got out of the city.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a trend a lot of people are going to be following. So I like to think I'm a someone who started that, but really it's just kids force you to go to the suburbs, so that's okay.
You're a
I don't know.
pioneer. You're a pioneer of the suburbs.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's my. If I get a real minivan, that'll be my wagon, and I'll just fully lean into that narrative. So totally into that.
It's true.
So life before crypto. What were you doing before you got into this space? And tell me about previous Rachel.
So I have like sort of a versatile background, similarly to what I bring to the space. So I originally was working in production for a long time. My job, my goal was production for theater, for commercials, for television. I worked for the Blue Man Group for 2 years. I was actually the Blue Man Group's first ever female site supervisor of the production space. I worked on all of their social and commercial content in and out. It went through me. I did set, build, sounds, lights, props, as well as like a bunch of distribution and stuff like that. But anyway, Blue Man Group was fun and ridiculous. Just like on a side anecdotal note on Blue Man Group, you can imagine working there and supervising them is just as ridiculous as you would think. I would have to do things like yell at the Blue Man to like get off that pogo stick because if you get hurt, it's my fault. But that was my real job. I did that for 2 years. And then I sort of started doing freelance production work. I did commercials like HPE, Weight Watchers, Broadway shows like Lion King, Wicked. And I had friends who had a production background as well. The friends came out to New York where I was based and were going to Consensus and invited me out to some of the networking parties. And that was it. So my production background led directly into my spot in the cryptocurrency space, how I operate now and what I do. Those friends had a cryptocurrency YouTube channel and I started working with them. And then about 3 months later started Crypto Finally.
Very cool. So when was that? Which consensus was that?
Consensus 2018.
Oh wow, that's
I'm a
all. Yeah,
force. Yeah.
yeah. 2018. It seems like a million years. 2019 seems like a million years ago. That's funny.
It
Uh,
feels like so long ago. I see like my pinned tweet, like my pinned tweet on Crypto Finally is from a year ago, over a year ago now, and I just couldn't believe it. Like I gave that talk an entire year ago. That's how long I've been doing crypto. It really sucks you up. It really does.
yeah, yeah, totally. I think people. I have this theory that people are only going to leave crypto when they move to Mars, and they won't really fully leave. But it's just it attracts a weird subset of people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
That's
being in it every single day doing nothing but crypto is
yeah, it's an odd space. My wife still has trouble explaining what I do. She's like, I don't know, just don't ask. So you were on the production side of a while. Being on the production side of Blue Man Group is insane because those sets are wild. So I can't even imagine. So what do you like about being in front of the camera, being a creator, being part of the community that way?
Well, it's interesting that you state it like that way, being in front of the camera. I never was before. So I know that a lot of people, I post selfies, I do a lot of live streaming, a lot of stuff that does put me sort of in the forefront. I had never really done anything like that prior to Crypto Finally, which is why when I started working with that other channel, it was such a natural fit for me to be doing work on the back end, similar to like what I did in my production background. I studied theater and writing. I never really actually had a true interest in doing that. I'm sorry, my computer almost froze for a second.
That's okay.
I never really had a true interest in doing that. So it's a new adventure for me. But part of what helped me in this and what sort of helped me be more able to establish this is that I was a substitute teacher So somewhere in the freelancing, when I was doing commercial work, I was also substitute teaching in New York City public schools. And I can tell you, if you can get up in front of 35 kids in a public school and get them to pay attention to you, you can do that with some men on the internet. And it's a learned skill. And I would say that to people who are trying to start live streaming, for people who are trying to start doing more speaking or getting themselves in the forefront as a brand, or who are doing marketing. It is a learned skill. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't turn the camera on and suddenly you can talk to it. It's something that I sort of developed over time, but it's new. It's new here.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, talking to kids, I've done one or two events in front of kids, and it's just insane, the lack of respect.
Well, also, you know, that trope about the substitute teachers, it's completely true. You know, they think they can walk all over you. They're going to be on their worst behavior. But I was pretty cool with them, and I did enjoy working with the kids. But that is definitely a big part of the speaking. I was also in policy debate when I was in high school. Like, I was a big nerd. Like, I know that I post my selfies and like I'm crypto finally now and people will think what they were, but I was like huge mega nerd. I was the only girl on the AV team for 4 years. I was number 4 in policy debate in New York when I was 15 years old. I'm sorry, my dog might bark right now, but anyway, that's okay. The gist of that. Like, I wasn't a cool kid.
that's very funny. I identify with not being a cool kid. So did you ever think about doing content creation for any other space? Like, I know you said you're behind the camera, did a lot of production work, but was it just crypto pulled you in front of the camera, or did you ever think about doing anything else?
You know, everyone, I mean, not everyone, like some like narcissistic people like myself, perhaps, have dreams of being big one day. And I always had that when I was a kid, you know, but there was no way to manifest it. When I was younger, you know, when I was a child, we didn't have like a ton of money. I remember asking if I could be an actress. I really remember asking that question to my mother, and my mom goes, no, we're not going to do that. What she meant is like, we're not going to go get you a manager. Or that's ridiculous, Rachel. Like, that's what they were telling me. But I wanted to do it really badly. And I didn't really have a niche where I fit in. So cryptocurrency sort of provided that for me. It was a fun new space where things were just developing, and we sort of haven't assimilated as far as who we are and who we're allowed to be yet in cryptocurrency, which I think is a really interesting angle. As such a new community of people in an emerging tech market, we're looking at building something from the ground up, which means there was room for me to enter and be myself. Unlike other industries that may have been more dominated or more assimilated to one another at that time, cryptocurrency was a good opportunity.
Cool. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And it plays to your nerd background, so that totally makes sense.
It does. It's exactly me. Like, what am I doing on the debate team and working for the Blue Man Group and talking about Bitcoin? Like,
also, I want to know what an AV team is, but that's totally a separate sidebar.
The audio-visual team.
Well, but like, did you compete in audio-visual setups?
Oh no, we set up all of the school functions and ran the audio and the lights and the video stuff. You know,
I'm imagining like competitive AV setup like that.
I was one of the kids in the back and like wearing all black and like touching buttons. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was on tech for theater, so I remember that. So how do you think that like you've been creating content in the space for literally a significant percentage of the time the space has been around, right? So how do you think it's changed as a medium, right? Like since you've started?
You mean how the industry has changed?
No, how content creation has changed. You know,
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, over just like the last couple years that I've been doing it, I've been seeing a lot of people advancing. Like, there's a lot of different angles to that question. So I'm sorry if I take the wrong route on this one. But I'm seeing content change and evolve. You know, I think that people are realizing that crypto is sort of coming to a forefront now, and more people are trying to access it and making it more accessible. You know, I think that people are starting to realize the necessity for making educational and strictly simple informational content, as opposed to just sticking in things like technical analysis. We're seeing a lot more of that happen. I have noticed the space grow. I've noticed it grow significantly. Even in the major players, you know, over the course of the last 2 years, people have come up and there are new players in the scene than there were at that time. So I just think from like a content perspective and a creator perspective, I find that to be really interesting. And also just the conversations that we're having are changing. The conversations are no longer so rooted in the technology, but in the way that the world perceives us. And I think that it's fascinating to watch more of that happen. From crypto Twitter talking about mainstream news sources to CNBC to stuff like that. It's interesting to watch it evolve, and it changes the way that we relate to the space itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Who's the guy on CNBC who
Rand
um
Nooner.
no, the maybe not CNBC. I think it's maybe Squawk Box, who's like a full-on Bitcoiner now. I don't know, one of the presenters, pretty incredible. So you focus a lot on newcomers, right?
Mhm.
And that's part of what this event about. The focus of this event is people who want to create companies on public blockchains. I think that we all think that private chains are probably not long for this world, but what do you think are some common questions you see newcomers have? And how do you think companies can better answer those questions?
So, newcomers to the cryptocurrency space, honestly, I think that the biggest question is how can I make it work for me, and is it accessible to me? So,
Hmm.
I say this a lot, but I really want people to hear it. There is a big subset of the world right now who is aware of Bitcoin and would like to get involved, but simply think that it's too difficult for them to do so. There's a huge curve of understanding when it comes from translating what we've seen on the news about all of the nerds getting rich to understanding it's an opportunity we can actually take part in.
Hmm.
So I think it's really important that we continue to reiterate that it's simple. We can simplify it. I think that UX and UI are obviously going to be super important. And this is the trail I take. Tech, obviously the most important. You need the tech, you can't do anything. UI, UX, obviously important. Without them, no one's going to use the product. Distribution, just as important as the UI, UX, and tech. The distribution matters just as much, because if you can't get it in front of them and you can't tell them it works for them, they're never going to use it. If you don't put it in front of them, they don't know that you exist. And that's going to be the most important thing to tackle, in my opinion. I think that a lot of the technology is there. Obviously, there's stuff to work on, but a lot of the technology is really there. A lot of the UI, really there. I mean, there's been a lot of developments in that regard in the last couple of years as well. But the distribution is still lacking. So
Hmm.
it's a matter of getting it in front of a larger consumer audience and being able to actually expose new people to cryptocurrency in a way that they feel like they have the opportunity to get involved. Because right now, a lot of the stuff that we put out there, we tell them they can get involved, but they're still rolling their eyes and saying like, I'm never going to figure that out, and I think that prevents a lot of people. And I do also think that a lot of people who play devil's advocate, the friends who do roll their eyes, the friends who say like, it's not for me, I'm just not interested, I won't do it. Those people are scared of not being able to know how to do it. It's embarrassing to feel dumb. And to have your really smart crypto friends standing there with their really smart crypto apps saying, hey, it's super easy, it can make you feel kind of dumb if you don't understand. And so I think that people take the easier route and just disregard cryptocurrency as a whole. But that's the issue that I believe we need to tackle.
I think that's a really good point about not making people feel dumb. It's like empathy is really hard to have. And if you are smart and you understand this stuff, it can be hard to say like, well, why don't you get that Bitcoin's monetary policy is so important? And people hear monetary policy and immediately fall asleep. Like it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And also your point about distribution is really good. I think a lot of people have been mentioning Square or Cash App, and it's like
Cash App,
their
yeah.
their sales are through the roof, and that's just because they had incredible distribution of a product that people already like, and then they just spotted Bitcoin right in there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you're right on that point there. So I know you spend a lot of time looking at crypto from like a broad socioeconomic standpoint and looking at how the market views our community, because you're sort of right on that edge of normies. And so how do you think the narrative's changing in the broader world, and how's that something that people could take advantage of?
So I think what's happening in the mainstream when referring to cryptocurrency right now is actually incredibly important to the growth of our community in that regard. the portrayal that we used to see, and we're all familiar with it because we believe it. It's what we believe to be true, and it kind of is what's true. Okay, I just went in a full circle. I'm going to start with my first thought and then get to the second thought instead of starting. So the portrayal and perception of cryptocurrency and members of the community very early on, we're talking circa 2014 when we first started seeing cryptocurrency on television, was that we were nerds, that we were hackers, that we were criminals. And that was just about all of the portrayal and representation that the cryptocurrency community had at that time. It was consistently telling the audience, this is hard to be a part of. These nerdy boys on TV are the ones who are doing it. It's lame. Criminals are using it to traffic drugs. All of these stories were what were coming out around that time in 2014 as far as mainstream perception was going. And what I think is really interesting to watch in this arc, around 2017, around when the bull run was hitting, it's the first time we started seeing celebrity ICO licensing, celebrity Bitcoin licensing, which is basically, you know, sponsored posts by celebrities. And no, it didn't necessarily help the growth of the space. However, it did start to change the portrayal. Cryptocurrency was no longer nerdy. It was no longer a crime. It was something cool and sexy that celebrities were doing. Now, it wasn't the best way, but we did see that happen. All of a sudden, people are interested in cryptocurrency because it's offering a different sort of opportunity and it's attractive. And the celebrities made it attractive. We see growth sort of coming from there. So we're still in 2017 here. Then we see growth over the last 3 years since that time. So the ICO licensing sort of fizzled out. We saw what happened with DJ Khaled and Mayweather. They supported the Centra card and each got about $400,000 in indictments. So that was a lot, and that obviously disclosing securities and advertisements, that's a whole other story. But we saw that happen with them. We saw the celebrity ICO licensing lessen after that happened because a lot of people started getting in trouble because they didn't know how to market securities because it's a new world. Then we start seeing the portrayal change a little bit after that. It's no longer like sponsored shills by celebrities, and it's starting to be written into narratives in television and movies. And that narrative sort of becoming like, cryptocurrency is something that can give you more. And the way to sort of, a very specific example that I use to describe that, there are two that I think are really great from 2019. I think they were in 2019. Superfly. Have you ever heard of the movie Superfly?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Superfly is about cryptocurrency, right? So Superfly has a big follow through in their line. Do you know what I'm talking about? The new movie.
No, I knew the old. I know the old movie.
So there's a new Superfly, right? There's a new Superfly that was a big Hollywood box office hit, and it was about this guy who's turning cash into crypto, and he is like sort of still a criminal, but he's cool. You know, you watch him and you're like, that's awesome. He's doing it. He's not like a black market criminal. You know, he's a superhero criminal. And you love it. So that was the first portrayal of like, hey, this is actually kind of getting sexy. And then one that I really love is Juicy J came out with a song in February of 2019, March of 2019, called Let Me See. And the music video for that song is actually about the EOS blockchain. Yeah, it's Kevin Gates and Juicy J. The song is called Let Me See. And if you watch the music video, they go as far as to write blockchain code on a whiteboard during the video. Kevin Gates is looking at code for the EOS blockchain. And the music video itself, this is the part that I really love. The music video itself is rooted in what you would see a traditional sort of rapper hip hop music video to have looked like maybe 10 years ago. It's sort of a party scene. There are girls there, the guy's the lead, that kind of thing. Only this music video set in an office. It's set in an office and the women are doing work calls, the women are on binders, and the guy is the CEO of this big office. It continues to show these tropes. Tech mogul did it all for himself. Big fish, like that kind of thing. And it's portraying this image that with these technologies and with the way that the day and age is changing, we really are being given a new opportunity. And I think that that's particularly attractive to millennials, especially who have been primarily stuck in the gig economy. Cryptocurrency provides a way out.
Yeah, that's really cool. I need to watch that music video now. even though it's
Yeah.
EOS, but I won't bring my biases into this. I'm
The
objective.
Everpedia guys are in there too. Like they're literally like some of the Everpedia guys are standing in the back wearing their t-shirts. Like it's really something.
Yeah.
It's Juicy J and Kevin Gates. And if you're like a super nerd and you don't know who they are, like that's a really weird big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a super strange. It's funny to see where it comes in. I think it was on the show Billions at some point. They talked about
Yep.
Bitcoin, and so this is something I think about a lot, and I'm interested in your opinion, which is the ridiculous infighting on Twitter, and the infighting.
Okay.
The people that like, people that just sort of go at each other all day long and spend seemingly all of their daily heartbeats on making fun of each other's cryptocurrency. Do you think that it helps? Do you think that it hurts? Or do you think anybody actually fucking cares and that it means anything to anyone?
I don't think it really matters. I think that if anybody is of the mind that we will ever hit any stage of global adoption of cryptocurrency, you need to prepare for the fact that you are going to be old news really quick. And I think that's just the fact of the matter is like, if we do grow that big, these small stakes, these arguments that we're having, they minimize as we maximize. And so I don't think it's the most important place. I don't think that people should necessarily be wasting their time with it. Not to mention, like, you can like a coin. That's cool. Like, that's the end of the story. You can like a coin. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay. So, and I want to wrap up with this question, which is like, this event is for people who want to build companies. You're seeing a lot of stuff. What opportunities do you think there are for people that want to build companies in cryptocurrency right now?
I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think that it's just about like looking around. There are solutions that need to come everywhere, from people being able to purchase cryptocurrency in a simple way, to better non-custodial wallet types, to monetize social media. I mean, there really is access on all angles, like from whatever background or skill set you have in the real world outside of cryptocurrency. There really is a way to bring it here. And so I think that's important for people to remember. Don't just eye around the space and think to yourself like, oh, like so-and-so is already doing that. Like, yeah, so-and-so is already doing that, but we've only been around for 11 years. And you really can do whatever it is you want to do. And there is room for you to get a leg up. There is room for your product to succeed. It's just a matter of figuring out what you're good at. What I see a lot of with companies and people in the cryptocurrency space is one-man armies. These guys who think that they can do the technology, they can do the code, they're their own dev, they can do the marketing, they're gonna host all the, like all of this stuff. I think it's important to remember that we're not one-man armies. And that other people have different skill sets in different locations. And accessing that, bringing what you're good at is really what's going to shine through.
I think that's really good advice. Well, this has been awesome. It's really cool to get your perspective on this space and hear from a content creator. We hear from a lot of those one-man armies and other kinds of nerds during this. So I'm just really thankful that you gave our audience the time and you're available. So where can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact or watch your stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CryptoFinally or on YouTube at CryptoFinally or my website, which is RachelSiegelNYC.com. And all of my information is accessible from any of those locations. If you have a hard time, write CryptoFinally as one word in Google. I'm impressed by that search result.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Well, awesome. Rachel, thank you so much. And we look forward to your Q&A later today.
Great. Thank you.